Hey guys, welcome back to the 𝗍𝗿𝗰𝘁𝘀 channel. Great to have you guys with us. Today I'm going to be doing a review of the samurai folding saw that we had picked up about a couple of weeks ago. And yeah, first I'm going to head over to the forest. So I'll meet you over there and we can get started. Okay, so today we're going to be reviewing the Samurai FC240LH. We picked this up about 2 weeks ago for 1,780 rubles, and I'll put like a little box here so you can see how much it is in euro currency. I thought it would be a good idea to just start with the things that are on the packet and what I think over the time I've used this saw so far. So over here we have, it says 4mm blade or tooth spacing, so it's a fairly aggressive saw. It also says here that it is taper ground for minimized friction, so we'll have a look at that. Can't really show it to you, but basically what it means is that the cutting side of the saw is the thickest part of the saw. This side is the thinnest side, so it has a taper grind, and that's supposed to make it easier to cut. So we will assess that when we do our cutting. What else does it say on here? Auto lock type. Basically the mechanism is on a spring, so it locks as soon as you fall into place. And here it says Japan. On the back it says made in Japan. So yeah, I can't really say whether it is or not, but yeah, the blade is appears to be a stainless steel. And what else? Can be used for pruning, cutting dry timber, gardening and outdoor. On the back here it says blades taper ground, the hard chrome finish is rust proof. That is talking about the blade only. I will talk about the rest of the saw later on in the video, but the blade is definitely rust proof. I haven't had any problems with that so far. So handle is ergonomic, covered with a non-slip rubber cushion, and special curve for the handle reduces effort required for cutting. You can see that that is quite a curve. One of the reasons we went with this saw is because it is one of the cheaper saws that has a good reputation. Samurai company has been around since 1900, so it's over 100 years old, the company. So they have obviously a bit of a reputation already. They have had experience in making the saws. From the overall aesthetics of it, just looking at it online, which is how we bought it through Ozon. It looked like it would do the job that we needed. The price was obviously one of the major things that we looked at, but also the shape of it. I wanted a curved blade because it is supposed to be easier for cutting. And then obviously this little knob on the back here to hold your hand, particularly when you've got mittens and stuff. I haven't seen anybody do reviews in the snow on this particular saw, so yeah, it will be interesting to see how this all goes. It's a 240mm saw, so we're going to show you later. We'll see what size stuff it can cut. Yeah. So yeah, we'll get into the actual review part of it and just do a bit of cutting. So I thought we'd start off by testing testing the limits of how much of a tree we can cut. This is a dead standing tree, so it's not going to be too hard as far as the timber's not going to be too hard. 240mm blade, so let's see. And there we have it. Nice clean cut, minimal effort. This is, you know, a little bit rotten. And let's have a look at what kind of a size this is. I want to give you guys an idea of, you know, what the scope of use this is. So that's 130 mil, so a little bit less than 6 inches. 13 centimeter bit of a tree, and no problems whatsoever. That was very easy to cut. So there we are. That was pretty easy as well. That was I cut it across the big way, the biggest way, just to try and maximize how much I could do out of it, because obviously if I go this way it's only 150, so I purposely cut it across the big section. 170, so a little bit over, I guess almost 7 inches there, a little bit less than 7 inches, and no troubles whatsoever. Also, I might mention, as far as ergonomics go, they say it's an ergonomic design, and I actually had a fall playing ice hockey the other day and hit my wrist, and I'm not noticing any major issues with that. So yeah, let's I saw a dead branch up in a tree, so we'll see. We'll do a few cuts, might cut a couple of these, and just put the saw through its paces, and try and give you an idea of what it's like. Не супер удобно. I'm going to try. There's a little dead branch. There's a dead branch up in this tree over here, and we'll see how it goes for the small stuff. So I was a little bit eager there, but even with that, you know, the blade bent a bit, but it hasn't stayed bent. It's returned pretty good. So let's see how we go. super quick. you know, minimal effort. Let's throw those over there. I'll take this back over there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So this is fairly hard timber. Bit over 2 inches. As you can see, I've been doing most of this cutting with one hand, and if you use 2 hands, you know, one for downward pressure, one for pulling, you can do it a lot quicker. But I'm pretty sure the results speak for themselves. Effective saw, very handy tool. Okay, so pros and cons in this saw. We'll start with the pros. It is an affordable saw. If you're just getting started out, it is well within a budget. You know, there's no need to be spending hundreds of dollars on a saw if you're only going to go out once or twice in a year, or you know, a couple of times a month or something like that. And so far this is working very well. It cuts very fast, it's very easy to cut with, super ergonomic, and the locking mechanism's very easy to use. And with the curved blade, you don't have to use much effort to cut. I find that pretty handy. And yeah, that's about it for pros. I haven't got any other saws to compare it to, so I can only go off of using this one time, you know, using this saw. On the cons side, you have it does get a little bit loose over time. You can either just keep an eye on it and tighten this nut up. It's pretty easy to do, or stick a bit of Loctite on there. It does have a lock nut on there, but that's obviously not working super good. I had a bit of a rattle before I decided to do this, but I tightened it up for this review, and that seemed to work pretty well. So I'll probably put a bit of Loctite on there, and that should work, sort it out. The other con is with regards to the rust-proof coating that they say is on the blade. And that is only talking about the blade. It does not talk about the metal part in there that receives the blade, or these nuts. And I'm seeing corrosion on them already. And we haven't used this saw a whole heap. So yeah, you're gonna have to put some kind of an oil on there or something, just to keep the water out of there. Yeah, not fantastic, really, that it's starting to rust so quick. But I think if you take care of your tool and stay onto those little things, it should last a long time. It seems like a very good saw. Maybe not as sturdy as some of the more expensive ones, but if you take care of your tools, they'll take care of you. And you just have to be aware, you know, that you do have a budget tool. It is a good tool, but you know, you need to treat it appropriately. Would I recommend buying this saw? You know, if you're a professional pruner, this is probably not the saw for you. You know, you want something you can rely on all the time, you know, getting dropped and this and that and the other. And I just don't think that this has, you know, I don't think it's going to last a long time if you're, you know, abusing it every day, if that's your job. But for camping and what we do, I would definitely recommend it. It's a fantastic saw. It was a cheap saw. It makes it quite easy to get into, and having a saw out in the bush, out in the forest, to be able to make a fire and build things with is super handy, and it's really changed the way that we get outdoors. So yeah, Samurai FC240LH, people. If you like this review video, don't forget to let us know down in the comments. And yeah, this is the first review I've ever done, so let us know what you thought down in the comments. And who knows, maybe we'll do another one. But until then, take care, and bye-bye.